I recently took a trip into the high Arctic. Basically, I drove as far north as it's possible to drive in Alaska to do some work up there. And along the way, I thought, what a great opportunity to test the Core Nano X 98 watt hour V-mount battery. Now, if you don't know, I travel and work in a lot of remote locations here in Alaska, and I work in extremely harsh environments like anything from blizzards to well below zero temperatures to just bumping around on really harsh gravel roads. So I need all of the equipment that I take with me to be able to withstand some of the harshest environments that are possible on this planet. And while I use a lot of other V-mount batteries, all of them have their strengths, but many of them have quite a few weaknesses. For example, this Indy Pro 99 watt hour here is great. It's small, it's tiny, but it doesn't have a lot of output. It only has a couple of D-tap outs and a regular USB outs. And because of that, it means I need to take something like this, a giant V-mount charger. This is actually a travel V-mount charger. This would be a normal giant V-mount charger, which, as you can imagine, if you're flying in small aircraft, space becomes a problem really quickly. But the other issue is that these batteries, and even these ones here like from Small Rig, which do have USB-C power delivery and recharging, which is great, and a nice little screen here. The issue is that none of these batteries do very well in extremely cold temperatures. And if you drop these, speaking from experience, they break fairly easily. And especially in cold temperatures, they break really easily. And the Small Rig one here in particular, this screen scratches and breaks without a lot of issue. In the interest of full disclosure, Core did send these batteries to me, but they're not paying me for this video. They don't get any input into it, and they don't get to see it before it's launched. They just sent these batteries and said, go out and test them in as rugged and harsh conditions as you possibly can in Alaska. So when I was in NAB and Core was showing off these new Nano X 98 watt hour V-mount batteries, I got really excited because not only is the whole battery encased in a really good, strong polycarbonate shell, but it has a really nice display on the front. But also, you can see these LEDs capacity all the way around from way farther out on the side than you think you can, which is really handy. Plus the fact that they have USB-C out and regular USB-C, but you can also recharge this, and it's up to 100 watts of power delivery out of that USB-C port. And then, of course, there is also the D-tap power out. So the nice thing is that this screen, because it's deep behind the polycarbonate shell, that means that it is very impact resistant. It's not going to have any problems if you drop this. And actually, on my recent trip up to the Arctic, on some of the roughest roads that you could probably find in the United States, this thing was bouncing around in the back of my car because I didn't realize it had come out of its place that I usually store them. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of marks or scratches on it. It looks pretty much, other than my fingerprints, about as new as the day I got it about a month ago. But in addition to testing these up in the Arctic where the temperatures were around freezing and slightly below freezing, by the way, these did fantastically well, and Core has engineered them to handle below freezing temperatures, which I'm really excited to try a little more harsh conditions this winter when we hit wintertime again to see how well these do in sub-zero temperatures. But everything else I've tried up in the Arctic, everywhere else here in Alaska, these have handled all of the outside stuff I've done really well without any issues, even though the temps have been as cold as around 30 degrees, 28 degrees. They've had no issues. I've also had the chance to test these in some interview situations where I was sitting in a corporate office and conducting interviews for a day, and these were great. Now, I love the micro size because they're small, compact, they fit on the back of my FX6 really well. In all my testing of these, a couple of the features that I've appreciated the most, not just the USB-C recharging and the USB-C 100 watt power delivery, the display is fantastic. And of all the V-mount batteries that I have, which are a lot, these are the only ones that give you a really accurate readout time of how much runtime you have left. So when I'm running my FX6, it tells you you've got, 4 hours left or 4.5 hours left, however much the runtime is, according to the current draw on the battery. But when I'm doing interviews or when I'm using my FX6 with the Portkeys 7-inch 2200 nit monitor, obviously the time goes down quite a bit because the monitor is drawing a fair amount of power, but it gives you a really accurate readout of how much time is left on that, which is fantastic for knowing when I'm between sit down interview stuff and it's time for me to change a battery out, these have been the most accurate readouts I've ever seen. When I use something like this, the Indy Pro, it's great because it does have a little tiny screen on there, but as soon as you put a load on this, it doesn't give you an accurate amount or percentage amount of how much capacity is left in the battery. It changes based on how much load is being placed on it. So it might start at 80%, and then as soon as you put a load on it, it might drop to 60% or 40% if that load is going. But then as soon as you take the load off, it'll bump back up to 60%. The Nano X's have had none of that issue and have given me super reliable performance and very, very accurate readouts according to how much I'm using or how much power I'm using off of the battery at that time. So for somebody who travels, these batteries are fantastic. For somebody who does stuff in harsh environments, harsh conditions, I don't know that you can really find a better battery out there right now. These have handled pretty much, everything I've thrown at them in the last month since I've been testing them. And for ease of use, being able to travel without having to take one of these giant chargers, which, by the way, this is one from Core that I bought a while back, 3-4 years ago, and it's fantastic. Or one of these little travel chargers that are really slow and a lot of bulk for what you bring. Just having a USB-C port and being able to use the same USB-C power delivery device that I use to charge my laptop or power any other devices with USB-C is fantastic because it cuts down dramatically on the amount of stuff I have to bring with me when I travel to remote locations. Hey, if you're enjoying or getting value out of this video, then consider subscribing. My goal is to help other solo creators like myself make good decisions when it comes to buying gear and get the most you have out of the gear you already own by teaching you the skills you need to use it to its fullest potential. A few other things that I've really appreciated about this battery since I've been using them for the last month is not just the display and the accurate time readout and percentage readout that you can cycle between, but also these lights here, which make it really easy if your camera is, say, put up against a wall because you're in a very tight, confined space. You can still get an idea of, yeah, there's about 50% left battery, which is pretty dang close, and it will give you a good readout even from the side. But having this 1/4-20 here in the V-mount locking plate makes it really nice because you can attach this to a friction arm, attach it to a tripod, anything like that, and have it just sit there and hang and power, say, an A7S III via the USB-C, or if you have a dummy battery, you could do that there. The versatility of these batteries is excellent, but there are a couple of things you need to be aware of. One, these are maybe what I would consider to be a premium battery. Core puts out excellent products. I've used a lot of their batteries on a lot of sets and productions, from massive productions to smaller productions where we've used gold mounts or V mounts, and Core batteries are well regarded and highly regarded as being some of the best. So they're not the cheapest battery out there. They're also not the smallest. Like here, if you look at this, like this is a tiny bit smaller, and there's some other ones like probably by GDU that are a little bit smaller. There is a feature that I can't wait to try out that I haven't been able to test yet because Core hasn't finished developing the app for it yet, but it has an NFC tag in there that will give you information about the battery life cycles, the health of the battery, the capacity of the battery, and other information that will be super useful in knowing whether or not this battery is worth throwing in your bag and then traveling 1,000 miles with, or whether it doesn't have the capacity or the life left to really make it worthwhile traveling. So for me, I'm probably going to be picking up a few more of these because they are by far my favorite micro V-mount batteries I've used. I'm going to see if I can get a couple of 150 watt hours just for use here in Anchorage. Those are a little more difficult to travel with, but the 98 watt hour have been fantastic to travel with and use in everything I've tested them in over the last month. But next, you're going to want to watch this video right here. I'll see you over there as always. If you have questions, you can ask me in the comments below or join my live stream, which happens most Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, we can have more of a conversation. I can answer questions maybe I didn't get to in this video. I'll see you again soon in the next one. Cheers.